morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of UniEEcast. I'm here today with my fellow founder of Uni, Nick Looby. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning. Very excited about our conversation this morning. Hello, David. Hello, Chris. Bring on the fun.
Absolutely. Wow, we've got an action-packed show this morning. Now, we're recording this leading up to the festive season. We're about a week and a half away from Christmas. When most people listen to this, we'll be approaching Christmas very, very fast. It's been an epic year. Nick and I have been on a roller coaster of a journey. We've launched Uni back in September this year. We've had some fantastic guests join us already on the show, even though we're having to do this from our homes due to the pandemic this year. But hey, it's been great, and we're looking forward to what 2021 brings and getting out there. But today is about one individual. We have our special guest with us, Mr. Chris Mason. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Now, Chris, we've known each other for a few years now. We got to meet through Anglia Ruskin University in Chelmsford, where you as a student studying a master's. Tell us a little bit more about what you were studying, because it's quite close to my heart, because I'm a technical guru myself, but you were really pushing the boundaries with your studies. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was doing pretty much everything I could get my hands on at the time. So yeah, my master's was in cybersecurity. We spent a lot of time looking at policies around cybersecurity. We got involved with societies where we had some trips out to various places, which was quite interesting. We had some trips into some industry places as well. So that was good fun. Yeah, it was definitely a year full of ups and downs. There's no doubt about that. It was good fun. I know when I did my undergrad, a year or so before, I never really got involved with anything at the university apart from my degree. So when I went back for the masters, I threw myself into everything, including the union. I got involved with Be Your Own Boss, Big Pitch, all sorts of extracurricular stuff. And that year has really changed my life. There's no doubt about that.
Wow. So you just mentioned a couple of things there, which are kind of music to my ears, because I've helped and worked, and Nick has as well, with Anglia Ruskin University over the years. You mentioned Be Your Own Boss, the Big Pitch. The Big Pitch, for our listeners and what viewers out there, just sort of talk about the Big Pitch. Let's start with Be Your Own Boss. Just talk about where Be Your Own Boss kind of set the scene for you.
Okay, so when I decided to go back to university, I also decided to go self-employed. I'd never sort of ever thought I'd work for myself. I didn't really have a clue where to start. But I sort of said, right, let's bite the bullet, let's give it a go, see what happens. And this opportunity come up at Anglia Ruskin called the Be Your Own Boss, where they were running a series of seminars on marketing, on finance, on anything you can think of about working for yourself. So I thought, take the opportunity, go along to these events, see what they're like. So I went along to the first one, and I went and got myself a cup of tea, and I went and sat at the back of the classroom. Sat in the dark, sort of looking at my laptop, occasionally looking over the top while I was listening to what was going on. And all of a sudden, David turned around and said, right, everybody up, stand in a line in front of each other. You're now all going to go through and introduce yourselves, and you've got like 30 seconds, and then you're going to move along. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's not me. I can't do that sort of stuff. I'm always the quiet kid sat at the back. And I just sort of pushed through it and put myself outside my comfort zone, stood up the front, started talking to people. And then after a few weeks, it's sort of, you get to know people. All of a sudden, it's not such a scary experience. So you get to sit there and listen and learn about business, but you also get to have conversations with people and build your networks. It was great. It definitely improved my confidence, especially in public speaking. When one of the sessions we had to stand up and just spend 15, 20 seconds just talking about one of our hobbies or our likes or dislikes. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I've got nothing really to say. And then a lady stood up and said, I've got an allotment. And all of a sudden something clicked in my head and said, well, I've got one of them as well. So all of a sudden I had that little bit of confidence, that little bit of courage just to get up and say, "Hi, I'm Chris. I have an allotment. It's great fun." And that's sort of where it all started for me.
I like the sound of that, and I think David's a bit of a taskmaster. There's no hiding. There's no hiding in the room, and it kind of reminds me what business is kind of like. A courageous move to go back to uni and throw yourself into it. Double that up with, oh, by the way, I'm going to become self-employed as well, and then I'll throw myself into this be your own boss malarkey. Fantastic. And I think I used to be very similar, Chris. I used to be the very quiet one at the back of the room. Don't want to be noticed. Just tell me what you've got and I'll absorb as much as I can. And it doesn't really lend itself that well if you're going to run a business, because you've got to be out there, you've got to be talking to potential customers, you've got to be working with clients, and that courage that you clearly showed going back to uni and embraced it all, no doubt massively helped the confidence and gave you that kind of inner energy to take the business in the direction you've taken it. Love that.
Yeah, no, it's been a journey for you, Chris, and I think the big turning point was obviously being part of those Be Your Own Boss seminars, going self-employed as you've just explained. But then this opportunity come along for you called the Big Pitch, which is basically a competition, not necessarily for businesses, but an individual or individuals that have an idea and they want to pitch that idea. And it's a bit like a dragon's den. It's probably the best way to explain it. They pitch that idea to a panel of judges, and then if they are fortunate enough to get through the process, because there's a number of steps through the process, they have the opportunity of winning up to £10,000. Now, you can imagine you're a student, you're a startup business, you're self-employed, or you've got this great idea. Hey, that dangling of a carrot of £10,000 could be mine is always kind of interesting. But I know you entered the Big Pitch competition. Tell us a little bit about your experience, the Big Pitch 2018, and how that probably maybe pivoted or changed your direction to where you are today, really.
Yeah, the Big Pitch was a very interesting experience. For me, it actually started when I was doing my undergrad. I sat down with a fellow student, we were studying computing, and we sort of said, well, there's no IT service for students, so why don't we try and set something up? So we spun up a Facebook page and we didn't get anywhere with it. So fast forward a few years, I'm back at university, the Big Pitch is still going on, and I thought, right, let's take that idea, run with it and see where we end up. So I put this little video together all about Student Computers, the IT support company run by students for students, and put the video out there, tried to get people to like it. I'm not a marketing guru, I will hold my hands up and say that. And I was fortunate enough to be selected by the judges. So I got invited along to the boot camp, which was 2 days of very intense business lessons on finance, marketing, branding, you name it, basically. It was very intense. I learnt an awful lot, and it was great fun. And I still, even 2 years down the line, or 2.5 years down the line, I'm still in touch with a lot of the boot campers, and we still do bits of business backwards and forwards and get involved with each other's events, and that it's been fantastic. And that was sort of my sort of life-changing moment. I went and stood in front of a class full of people, gave the best pitch of my life, I think, which took months and months of preparation and practice, and was fortunate enough to be awarded £2,500 to start a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you were amazing on the night for someone that had gone through that kind of 9-10 months of, as your words, sitting at the back of the classroom, not being involved, taking all the information in, to go from that to having to stand up in front of an audience in a theatre, deliver the pitch of your life, and get that huge round of applause, and it was a huge round of applause, and then be awarded by the judges, because it was the judges' decision. A little bit biased, I was on the panel, but to be one of the judges, to see all these great ideas and then to select those ideas, and we had a number of winners in different categories that evening. You got your award. You got your £2,500. You got the mentoring and the support that come with it, provided through the program as well, through ARU and the big pitch. Um, how did that help you then start your business? Did that give you the confidence that I can now do this? Did the money help? I mean, £2,500 a lot of money, but of course, when you set up a business, it goes very, very quickly as well.
Yes, it does. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I was fortunate enough, which was a complete surprise and shock to me at the time. But after all the prizes had been awarded, I was also given the Student Entrepreneur of the Year award as well. So that was very helpful because that was an additional £1,000 and a little glass trophy. So that all goes into the pot to help get the business going. Um, I mean, from that, I did have some mentoring through Anglia Ruskin. I didn't always see eye to eye with one of the mentors that I was assigned. And after a few months, we sort of had a conversation, and it was, we're going to go our separate ways here because it's not working out. I'm a big fan of organic growth. And he was just like, well, let's get millions of investment and we'll do this and we'll do that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to keep up? You know, it's just all going too fast. I've still got my master's to finish. I've still got to get my dissertation done. So yeah, I mean, after that, I sort of started thinking an awful lot about where to go, how to do things. I got a company involved to do some branding and some logos and colours and things with me. Spun up a website and sort of thought, right, let's do it. Let's see where we end up. I went to the Freshers' Fairs to offer IT support to students, and that wasn't very successful for me, unfortunately. It spent an awful lot of money out of that 3,500 to get there, and it hasn't paid off. But that's part of business. You have to sort of move forwards from that. So I've since redeveloped the idea. I've got another website, a new website that I've still tweaking at the moment. I don't think it's ever going to be finished, but we've changed our service offerings. We are now going for the business-to-business market because it's sort of the best way forwards for us. When I first launched as Jekyll, we had 9 different service levels to target as many people as we could. Now we offer 2, which is much easier for everybody to get IT support. It's much easier for me to manage it from my end and to get the work done. So the big pitch was that springboard to get me to where I am now. And we're 18 months down the line, still going strong, still growing. It's been one hell of an adventure. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the future brings.
You're dead right there, Chris. It is, you embrace it, and it is a massive adventure. And it sounds like it's a right story from start to finish, from the back of the room to the front of the room, to winning the fistful of cash and spending it and developing and pivoting. That's a lot of stuff already that you've been through on this business journey. What if chances are there's people listening right now, okay, sitting there going, well, I've got a good idea, but I'm still at uni, or I've still got to get my degree, or maybe I've still got to write my dissertation. What's the biggest lesson you reckon if you package those last 2-3 years together, the biggest lesson that you'd share with someone who's sitting in your shoes 3 years back?
The biggest lesson for me has been have the confidence to just do it. Get out there, try. At the end of the day, if somebody comes back and says, no, that's rubbish, you just look at it, take their advice on board, potentially redevelop, move things forward. Any business out there has to pivot, has to change depending on the market. Otherwise, you get left behind. So if you don't get out there and do it, you're never going to know.
Yeah. And we find ourselves, Chris, in a very strange year that I would say not just you as a business, but the majority of businesses, probably all the businesses globally, have never seen or been involved with before. And yes, that is the year of the pandemic 2020. I'm sure in years to come, we'll all be talking to our grandchildren. Where was you during, the pandemic? What was you doing? how has that impacted? Bear in mind, you're a young startup business. How's that impacted? Has it been a benefit to you? Has it become a disadvantage? Has it really kind of stopped the wheels in motion? Has it kind of knocked you a little bit, or have you kept positive? How has this year been, 2020? Bear in mind, we're approaching the year end very soon.
It's been an interesting year to say the least. Before the first lockdown in the UK hit, I was booking in to go networking at some new groups that I'd not been to before. I'd been invited into some more groups, and I sort of set everything up. And I went to about 2 or 3 of them, and then all of a sudden, everything's cancelled, everything's stopped. So I sort of, you have to sit there and think, okay, what do I do? Where do I go from here? Thankfully, the FSB set up quite quickly a virtual networking group, which has meant that I can still talk to people and try and pick up some business and sell services and make connections, grow the network. From a sort of practical point of view, I spent 4 months living in my camper van. So as a essential worker, because everybody's working from home, everybody needs IT support. If there's a problem, someone's internet line goes down and you've got to go out and physically connect things up, you've still got to go out there, even when the government says everybody should stay at home. So to keep everybody that I live with safe, I thought 4 months in the camper van, that'll do me all right. I've got everything I need in there. It's a van that I built myself last year, so that was quite fortunate timing. But for business, I would say that it's actually not made too much of a difference, because I'm still getting out there, I'm still networking, I'm still picking up clients, I'm still working. Unfortunately, some businesses, particularly in the hospitality trade, have had to stop trading. I'm fortunate enough that that hasn't happened to me. So yeah, although it has been uncomfortable this year, I think in certain times, it's not made a massive difference to my business.
Certainly pays to be resourceful, Chris. So you build a camper van and then find yourself saying, right, well, I'll set myself up in here for 4 months.
Yeah.
What do you think, looking ahead at 2021, what's the biggest challenge you've got coming up? Because it sounds like you're not afraid to pivot. You're not afraid to, take a few blows along the way. You'll go with whatever the market is doing. There must be some. You look at 2021 and think, right, this is the hill that I've got to get over. What's that big challenge ahead?
So I think for me, it's growing my client base at the moment. A lot of people are working from home and they're going to stay working from home. I think that the normal that we had before the year of lockdowns, I don't think we're going to get back to that for a very long time, which means we're not going to be doing the face-to-face meetings. It's going to be very hard to do presentations. I'm in technology and I love it, but I find I'm much better in a face-to-face environment for me. I'm more comfortable with that. And we're not going to be back there for a long time. So I think that's my sort of biggest challenge, is how do I keep the momentum going, getting the name out there, connecting with people, building the network, and hopefully getting some more business.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head. It is, as Nick said, you're very resourceful. Building your own camper van. I know you're sitting in a new gleamy office behind you that you've just refurbished and redone, and it's looking lovely. The fish tank's there. We can't quite see the fish, but I assume that. Oh yeah, there's one. Just swam by your shoulder. So you are very resourceful, and it means you're willing to kind of, obviously, as Nick said, pivot and change and attack the challenges as they come. And 2021, I think, for all of us will be interesting. I'm sure it's still going to be challenging in its own right as well. And people are always going to need, companies like yourself, IT service providers, looking after and maintaining more so now, because a lot of these businesses, obviously, people used to work for an office and they used to have the IT department wrapped around them. Now they're working from home, and working from home could mean they're not working anywhere locally to where they were based. So I suppose there's going to be hopefully for you, lots of outsourced work from those businesses saying, look, we've got lots of employees working from home, can you service and look after them? So there's be some really good, fun stuff coming from that. So I suppose what we need to do, here's the shameless plug. How can people reach Mr. Mason and get hold of Jekyll if they require you? Now, I know you're based in the Essex region, you're in Chelmsford, but you obviously cover a wide area than just Chelmsford. But if someone wants to get in touch with you from listening to this, find out a little bit more about, who Jekyll are, what you do, have a chat with you about the services you offer, what's the easiest way? Do you have, a phone number that we can obviously plug now, a website address, and more importantly, an email address as well?
So the best way of getting in touch is go to the website. You can book a free 15-minute session with me to talk about IT or anything if you just fancy a chat. There's email addresses on there, phone numbers. That's the key place to go. I am on LinkedIn if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I am floating around somewhere in Twitter and Instagram as well these days.
Fantastic. So the website address. What's the website address they need to tap into their keyboard?
It's www.jeccl.co.uk.
Brilliant. www.jekyll.co.uk. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. Nick, have you got any final questions you want to put to Chris?
I have. I've got one final question, and I think it's great to have this conversation, Chris, because David and I can build resources, we can run webinars and modules about all of the aspects that students, entrepreneurs need to run businesses, but these individuals need to bring that energy, that courage, kind of all that resourcefulness. We'll provide the tools, but there's something inherent in an entrepreneur, that drive that kind of sets them aside from most others. And it strikes me that it's incredible, kind of this journey that you're on already. What are you looking forward to most in 2021? What's the big kind of exciting dream you've got?
I think for me, it's going to be being able to get into my camper van and know that I'm only living in it for a week rather than living in it for 4 months, to be able to go away. I mean, the beauty of IT is unless you're having to plug stuff in, as long as you've got an internet connection, you can do it from anywhere. I'm fortunate enough to have unlimited data, so I can hotspot into my laptop, sit anywhere in the world and do stuff, which is sort of what I'm looking forward to a bit more next year. I think we're all feeling a little bit cooped up regardless of where we are, but that's my sort of big goal for next year is to do that, knowing that I can still keep in touch with all of my clients and that I can still work when the calls come in.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, I want to thank you from both Nick and I for coming on the show today, joining us, sharing your story, sharing those challenges and those successes. It's been a pleasure to have you here. We wish you, well, firstly, dare I say this, is it too early? No, it's not, because when people listen to it, it'll be a few days to go before Christmas. So I'm going to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We hope that 2021 is super prosperous for you. And I personally, we're going to get you back on the show at some point next year and find out how 2021 has started to move forward for you and how your business has developed and grown. So Chris, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Nick, another fantastic show. It's joyful to have, such great young entrepreneurs onto the show, hearing their stories, how they're achieving the unachievable in some cases, and how university and life skills has accelerated their opportunities.
Yeah, it kind of makes me almost want to turn the clock back, David, and have another go. It's very rare that I want to go back in time, but it's such cool stuff going on. If I was Chris's age, and knowing what he knows, I'd be on fire as well, just like he is. Great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, that is all we've got time for today. Next week, tune in, because Nick and I are doing our festive Christmas special. We're going to have the tinsel out, the Christmas trees, the lights will be on. We're going to try and persuade Santa to come and join us. I think that will be a big ask, but we will see what we can do. But we're going to wrap up 2020. We're going to look forward and start planning for 21, and we're going to be sharing that all with you next week. So for me, David Bell,
Me, Nick Looby.
And from our special guest today, Mr. Chris Mason, thank you very much and stay safe.